Yes, hello everyone. Hello and big welcome again to the beautiful Soul Loaf with Jayne and my Soul Spotlight podcast. So, in case we haven't met before, I'm Jayne Pearl. I'm a shamanic healer practitioner, teacher, and intuitive soul guide. So, I'm really excited to welcome my beautiful guest this week. And this is Magda Wright, who is a fertility coach and homeopath. So, Magda, huge welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on here. Please do introduce yourself to us.
Oh, thank you, Jane, for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here with you. Yeah, as you've said, I'm a fertility coach, I'm a homeopath, and I help women to have their dream family naturally. Yeah, to optimize their body and their mind so that
Right.
they can have their baby.
Wonderful. Oh, it just sounds so wonderful. It really does. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much I know that we're going to be talking about today, Magda, but I'd like to ask you first of all, how did you find your way into this beautiful, amazing work that you do?
It's been quite a journey, but the
Yeah.
short bit of it is I was an accountant in the city in London and had my daughter, no problems, fell pregnant easily. Um, at the same time, I was a bit tired of the rat race of London and financial institution and things. And I found a homeopathy course or degree part time because homeopathy saved my mum's life when I was a child. Story for another day. But um, then when I wanted my second baby, it just didn't happen as what you expected to happen. Where my first pregnancy was, oh, you come off contraception, you fall pregnant, you have the baby. And I end up with 3 miscarriages. So my problem was not getting pregnant, but staying pregnant. And yeah, and then with homeopathy, working with a homeopath, and at this point I was studying homeopathy too, I had my second baby at the end. And then the other work came subsequently because I've also realized that I can always say the trauma of infertility doesn't leave when you get pregnant or even sometimes when you have the baby.
Mm.
Some of that comes through later on. And I'm always curious about learning. So over the years, I started to add tools, like hypnosis, coaching, EFT, a lot of other things. Um, and that evolved then. So fertility is something very close to my heart.
Yeah.
And having seen, because I know how it feels when you sit in a cold clinical doctor's room and they just go, we can't find anything wrong. And because we can't find anything wrong, we can't help you, go on, try or stop or whatever. And yeah, so over the last 15, 16 years, this is how my practice evolved, where now I do, because for a long time I only practiced a homeopathy. And while it's highly successful,
Yeah.
it evolved then into me do Fertile Mind, which is my business name, um, to optimize the body and the mind. So
Mm.
that is what brought me to where I am today.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Wow. As you say, yeah, definitely some journey, a huge journey, actually. So okay, let's kind of unravel that a little bit if we can. So
Yeah.
the homeopathy, when you started to study homeopathy and received homeopathy, and you were able then to become pregnant after suffering from 3 miscarriages, how did that work? How does homeopathy um, help you to do that?
Well, with her, homeopathy doesn't treat a condition per se.
Yeah.
It treats a person as a whole, which can sound a bit out there, but it's actually, I think, the thing that we miss in modern medicine.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't treated for fertility, but treated for everything going on in me. And the aim is to bring the person back in balance. We don't just remove symptoms, but we bring the balance back so that the body can be as healthy and optimized. And quite often, especially with miscarriage, as in my, you can get pregnant, so it's not a sperm or egg thing, although deeper down it may be, but that whole environment. And that is how homeopathy would treat anything, not just fertility, by strengthening the person.
Yeah.
It's almost waking up the self-healing mechanism so that the body can be where it's meant to be.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? Really, because definitely a lot of people would think, yeah, with homeopathy, you're going to treat me for that.
Yeah.
Thing, like, because that's what they expect. They expect, I've got this, I'm going to go and see a homeopath, and I want to be, treated and cured from whatever this thing is. But like you say, it's not about that. It's about taking a much broader view and treating your whole system.
Yeah, because not just for fertility, but with any disease, one system impacts another system. If you have eczema, it may be because your digestive system doesn't work well, or there may be endocrine. So there's always a knock-on system, and it's easily, as I say, in modern medicine, and especially when you see a specialist or something, they call the specialist, but they only look at this one little sliver.
Yeah.
And ignore the rest of the person, So, example I use quite often, if you're struggling with blocked tubes, for example, but you have a history of sinus, that sinus or blocked ears can indicate that your body got a tendency to overproduce. That's an imbalance.
Right.
And that is why your body then produce mucus in a tube, or even something like endometriosis.
Right.
So, if you go and see a doctor for endo or a homeopath, and they start to ask you about your sinuses, you might think, what does that have to do with it?
Yeah.
But the bigger picture, the link goes much deeper, the pattern in the body and how the systems work together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just absolutely fascinating. It really is, and it makes so much sense. Yeah, as you explain it, it makes complete sense. But I just find it completely amazing because I didn't know that about homeopathy. I didn't realize that you don't just go and have treatment for a specific thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's different. We can use homeopathy in an acute situation. Let's say you've got a cold or a migraine or hay fever, then you use a very smaller and more limited application of homeopathy, and you go on a few keynotes. But that would also be a very short acting remedy where for chronic stuff, you'll use deeper acting remedies in a different format. And then the whole body is always so. Let's say you've got a cold, or let's call it a sinus infection. There's remedies that can help you clear your nose and things, but then you would also do more constitutional remedies to stop the tendency in the body, to bring that balance back.
Yeah.
Because I see it almost like your body got the capability to heal itself, and it always strives to balance.
Yeah.
But sometimes the calibration just gets knocked off a bit, and the body thinks this is balance. And then homeopathy just reminds it, no, here's true north, here's the calibration. And that's how I see homeopathy. You know, it just recalibrate your self-healing mechanism.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, wow. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because there are lots of homeopathic remedies for sale, aren't there? Everywhere, really, everywhere
Yeah.
you go, you can. It's very easy to access them,
Yeah.
which I feel probably on some level that's a good thing. But is it always though? Is it something? Can people self-medicate with it quite safely? Or what's your view on that? Can you just go into
I think there's the I love to empower my clients to do homeopathy themselves.
yeah,
But the same, you know, if you have a cough or a cold, you can self-medicate
yeah.
like you would do. But if you have pneumonia, you're not going to self-medicate.
No,
You know,
no.
it's to know your limitations and to know where there's this thing, oh, homeopathy is safe, but you can cause a healing crisis. You can, you know, in a safe environment, there's still ways to navigate. And even after studying, I mean, I grew up with homeopathy, even though we had a very limited understanding because in South Africa, they didn't tell you what they give you. You know, so
Right.
when I came to the UK, walk into a health shop and you see all these names, I'm like, how do you know what's what? Um, but first aid or acute situations, you know, coughs, colds, nosebleeds, grazes, cuts,
Yeah.
that is so easy to do. You know, there's excellent books. Homeopathic pharmacies sell little kits that come with a book. And
Mm.
yeah, it's quite empowering when you realize, oh, I don't need to go, you know, the medicine route or,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. And it is. It is really empowering, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you. Okay. So, with your mum, then I know you said it's a story for another day. But
I don't mind. I just don't want to bore you.
so curious, I think, to ask you about that, Magda, if you don't mind. Are you?
Yeah, no, I do not mind. My mum come from a family with chest issues, you
Yeah.
know, asthma, bronchitis, that type of thing. And as a child, my mum was very, very ill into adulthood, and this was in the 70s. And the short story is basically she became intolerant to all the antibiotics because of her overuse of antibiotics.
Right.
But
Yeah.
my mum never just had a cold. It was immediately pneumonia or bronchitis, coughing blood, you know, quite from zero to full
Yeah.
on very, very quickly. And doctors just couldn't do anything for her. So they would put her in the hospital in oxygen tent. Sorry, that was what they called it those years.
Mm.
And bear in mind, I grew up quite not remote, but we're 35 miles from our nearest hospital, pharmacy. So my dad would be at home with three little kids working full time, trying to manage that. And my mum is just lying in hospital, not really getting better. And after one of these incidents, she was about 2 weeks in hospital by then and a lot longer sick. And the doctors actually said to her, we're too scared to treat you because we're scared we might kill you from, you know, from your reaction to the medicine.
Mm.
You seem to always have the worst side effects of any medicine. And somebody told my dad, I was around 6, 7, why don't you just take her to a homeopath? And he took her, you know, not knowing anything better, but this is just now clutching at straws, you know, let's try something.
Yeah.
And took her from the hospital, took her to the homeopath. I'll never forget it. This Dutch doctor, Lodder was his name. And within days, my mum was back at work. And over the years, that weak chest disappeared.
Mm.
You know, with continuous homeopathic treatment and stuff. And up to when my mum did pass away, she never really understood the principle of homeopathy, of, even the different remedies. As I said, she never, because when I qualified, I'm like, oh, sure, homeopath, what do they give you? She's like, no, I can't upset him. It's a state secret. But my mum lived till she was 77, and on no medications, on nothing. Unfortunately, she passed away very suddenly of a heart attack, which had nothing to do with her chest. But yeah, and as a family, we convinced my mum probably wouldn't have lived till she was 40,
Right.
if she didn't discover homeopathy, or at least her quality of life would have been awful.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's absolutely amazing, isn't it? So it's incredible, so inspirational as well, and definitely inspired you, Magda,
Yeah,
very much so to go down that homeopathy route and study it, train in it, and really bring that beautiful gift that you have there and share it with as many people as possible, and particularly with women who have been told that they can't have babies or they can't stay pregnant or
yeah.
other issues going on. You can really make a difference there, and you do. You've made a huge difference to many women. So, would you like to tell us a bit about your work now? Let's say, for example, if somebody was to come to see you, what would they expect from you from like the first
What
meeting, shall we say?
I just want to say, the beauty of homeopathy, because quite often fertility is unexplained.
Yeah.
And that means it's unexplained within the medical tests. And the medical tests normally include hormones and a scan of your uterus, ovaries. That's the basics. So again, we've got a very narrow view. Whereas a homeopath, I look at the whole thing. So your unexplained infertility may be sitting somewhere else in your body.
Yeah.
But my first appointment is around an hour and a half, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And we really do a deep dive into your story. What brought you? Because we all a mix of things we inherited, things we've picked up, what we eat, our personality. There's so many aspects of us. And as a homeopath, I'm interested in that whole story.
Yeah.
So I don't rely on blood tests, or sometimes I can come in as background information, and that's welcome. But for me, it's listen to the person, listen to their story. How do they experience their? Because again, homeopathy treat you highly individualized. So if you have 10 people with a migraine, they may all get a different remedy,
Yeah.
because one person may have a headache here, one person may have it here, one person is better when they move, another person is better when they sleep. And this is all the details. As a homeopath, I'm interested in. So that first consultation is basically to build a bit of a timeline and a bit of a story. And then continuously we dive deeper.
Yeah.
And it's like peeling an onion. We peel this layer, and then your body would show us what's the next layer and the next layer, and that is how the healing happens, step by step, following the story your body is telling us.
Yeah. Yeah. So listening deeply to your body
Yeah.
is really important, and you're bringing in the skills actually for people to be able to do that as well, because a lot of
Yeah.
people have a clue how to do that, would they?
No, and I think sometimes we don't live very aware of what it, and clients don't need to know or analyze. I'm just more interested in the story, and then my training and my skill come then
Yeah.
at seeing the pattern, seeing what your body is trying to tell us. And And sometimes I can't verbalize it always, but I just follow the story, and that would lead me to a remedy, you know. And sorry, I just think my camera. Yeah, it's so simple, but it's so complicated at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that, and yeah, definitely complex on many levels. But like you say, you can simplify it for people to understand what it is, what's going on with them, and to understand the route forward, really, the way forward.
Because quite often, when, and this is not me slagging off mainstream doctors, but we recently got more involved with my husband into that. And you realize medicine happened on you. You know, you as a patient don't have much of a voice. The doctor decides, and that is it. Where homeopathy happens with you. You know, it's your story, but it also means you start to think different about your body. You start to listen differently. You start to work with your body. And that's beautiful, because we can become so easily disconnected, but also if nobody listens to you and things just happen on you, you know, an incident, and I use this example quite often. I didn't know till about 2 years ago, if they do IVF on somebody with blocked tubes, they quite often remove or clip the tubes. And then on the NHS, they give you one round of IVF, which takes your choices further on totally. And the lady that came in for a discovery call that told me this, she was only 28 when they clipped her tubes. And she didn't fully understand what that would mean going forward, you know. And then 7 years later, she was trying to find answers. And it's for me so important that we work with our body, with the doctor, you know, that you're empowered to know what to ask, empowered to know this doesn't feel right to me, or what's my other options, because otherwise you can go into a funnel.
Yeah.
Nobody look outside that funnel or outside that box. So yeah, homeopathy is for me very much about the individual, that it's not a cookie cutter approach, but it's also working with you and not on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So the question that popped into my head a moment ago, Magda, this might sound a bit of a strange question. I'm sure probably people have asked
you. It's fine.
But would somebody have to actually believe in homeopathy for it to work for them?
No.
Right. Okay. Are you feeling it?
So I always tongue in the cheek say it's not a cold or something. I mean, do you believe in this paracetamol?
No.
Not really. No, but you don't need to go, oh, I believe this paracetamol. You know, sometimes that paracetamol isn't going to take your pain away.
No.
And that's the same with homeopathy. You know, you may not get the reaction you wanted, or you may want to get rid of your eczema, but your bowels are better. Because you need your bowels first better before your eczema would clear. This is where, you know, working with somebody and a homeopath that would understand the process. But also, and sometimes homeopathy can work like that in an acute situation. You know, if you have a child with a high temperature, or you've got a cut with blood pouring out, you know, it can literally. But if you deal with something as complex as infertility or any chronic thing, you need time. You need time to peel back that layers.
Yeah.
And, you know, quite often people say, oh, I tried it once and it didn't work for me. What didn't work? Not that I'm fighting here, but you can't say, oh, it didn't work because I don't believe in it, because you don't really believe in paracetamol. You know, normal medicine don't work every time. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, yeah,
But sometimes it feels, because it's homeopathy, everybody wants that instant
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
reaction, you know, and sometimes it's just more a process.
Mm. Yes, yeah. Okay, no, that's good, and I like the comparison to, like, say, taking paracetamol. I think that's a really, really good example, because yeah, paracetamol is not going to work for absolutely everything that people take it for. It's got
No, and some days it would work better than other days, you know, but
right, yeah.
I had somebody, I treated a child for behavior stuff, and she literally emailed me saying, I gave him one tablet and he's still having behavior issues. And I'm like,
Right,
you
okay.
need a little bit more time. Let's say you come to me with really bad periods, you know, that's going to take time. It's not going to be one tablet, and
No, that's
because it works so much deeper.
mm,
You know, when medicine work around taking the symptom away. So if you have a teenage girl with really bad periods, the doctors would say, let's put her on the contraceptive pill, and that would sort her out. But that doesn't sort the periods out. It
no.
shuts off the system.
Mm,
Where with homeopathy, you may need to do it for a few months, but once it's sorted,
yeah,
it would stay sorted till something come and perhaps throw your calibration slightly off. But you don't need to take the medicine to be better all the time.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that's a big difference. But yeah, but you don't need to believe in it.
No. Okay. No, right, I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes people just have such, what's the word I'm looking for? High expectations, don't they? Like you say, you've got somebody with behavioural problems, a child, they take one tablet, and they've still got the behavioural problems. You know, I think that's
Yeah, where even psychiatric drugs wouldn't work after one tablet. You know, it takes a bit.
definitely not. No. Okay. All right. That's lovely. Thank you. So your fertile mind, which is what you call your business.
Yeah,
Obviously, that those words there are just absolutely really potent and incredible, actually. And yeah, so when you're talking about fertile mind,
it's
yeah,
fertile mind body. Sorry.
fertile mind, body, right?
So it's
Okay,
the mind and the body.
yeah. So everything,
And
really,
yeah,
everything working together, which is fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So, why that name? How did you come up with that one?
you know what? Again, that took so many years, and you know, fine tunes and things. But for me, nobody can. First of all, there's nothing wrong with you if you can't have a baby. You know,
Mm,
there's nothing to be fixed. Sometimes we go into this, oh, that I need fixing, I need fixing. No, you don't need fixing. You're perfect. Things may just need to be optimized or recalibrated.
yeah,
And again, you know, we can get so hung up on the physical that we forget your mind controls your body. Your body would only do what your mind tells it. That
yeah,
doesn't mean a few affirmations and looking at yourself in the mirror is going to get you pregnant. Well, it may, but it goes sometimes deeper. So, with my homeopathy and with the coaching and RTT and other things that I brought in over the years, um, and I went through stages where somebody said to me, you only need to pick one thing. You know, you can't do everything.
mm,
And again, that was a journey in itself, you know. So I stripped my business back, went only to homeopathy, but it just didn't feel, while homeopathy is so powerful, even for mind and behavior and things like that, it just felt to me, I want to add my, you know, it's not me. I want the
yeah,
choice how I treat my clients. And so it's very important for me. And with the work I've done and the understanding of how our mind influence our bodies, our mind's job is to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it would do anything to keep you safe. So if it thinks it's not safe for you to get pregnant, it can stop you getting pregnant.
Yeah.
So that's where the fertile mind, fertile because it's fertility, but that strong body and mind connection. That's quite interweaved. It's not totally two separate standalone things.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's just that represents what I do. I help you to get your body and your mind optimized for fertility.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is just absolutely fantastic. Do you do that with hypnotherapy as well? Does
I
that cover
do.
that?
So you were saying earlier about my first appointment. I was talking about homeopathy appointment. I mix in my package. You get so many homeopathy and so many. And while there's some overlap, it's just sometimes easier to keep it slightly separate. But um, the homeopath in me is so used to individual treatment that even with the mindset stuff, I don't come in with, oh, we're going to work through childhood trauma, your relationship with your husband. I don't come with a recipe.
Mm.
And I also don't come into the session with an expectation
Yeah.
of what we do. And I meet my client where she is. And then we decide, oh, shall we do a bit of hypnosis today? Shall we do a bit of RTT? Shall we do a bit of EFT? I love the subconscious work, and I love hypnosis and RTT because it can just go straight to the cause of a certain belief, or you can and again, it's important for me that my clients don't need to relive the trauma. That's sometimes the thing with not slagging any other therapy off, but talking therapy, you can talk for months and months and months about trauma before it starts to dissolve. And that's quite painful.
Yeah.
But also quite time consuming, where if we have tools to dissolve that quicker, but then like I had somebody that was so highly anxious, she never wanted to go into hypnosis. So then it's nice to have the other tools, or where your client, I just love to I say make it up and not make it up, but
Yeah.
together in that session and meet my client with what she needs when she needs it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Coming again, working with her rather than working on her and dictating.
Yeah.
You do lead because you're the expert, or
Mm-hmm.
that's what they pay me to do.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But but to support her with where she is rather than where I want her to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Okay. ITT, what is that?
RTT, that's rapid transformational therapy.
Oh, sorry, I think you said ITT.
Sorry, maybe my accent.
Yeah. No, that's
That
okay.
is Marissa Peer. I don't know whether you've heard of
Yeah,
Marissa
I've
Peer.
heard of Marissa.
It's a form of hypnosis, but it combines quite a few other modalities in it. It combines a bit of timeline, a bit of inner child, a bit of, you can see she almost nitpicked all the gold from other therapies, but it in her way.
Yeah.
No, it's just because I've studied a lot of these things before I came to RTT.
Yeah.
I actually had RTT from a business coach, and I was like, oh, this is absolutely amazing, And years later, the opportunity came to study it, and I just jumped at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically you put someone in a very light hypnosis, because sometimes we've got this thing of hypnosis. Oh, they can do stuff to me. You
Mm.
fully in control under hypnosis.
Yeah.
You know what's going on. But in that light hypnosis, do some questioning and your subconscious just goes straight to where beliefs were formed or limitations or
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's very, very powerful, and yeah, it always amazes me.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah, I can tell. You can absolutely tell that, the passion that you have for your work absolutely shines through. It really does. It's just wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, so are you able to tell us about then some of your um, outcomes, shall we say, with some of your clients? Obviously, not mentioning names or
Yeah,
anything that identifies them as. I know we'd never dream of doing that. I know you wouldn't, but just a couple of, you know, would be lovely to hear.
yeah.
It's maybe.
One of families that's still very close to my heart. I mean, all my clients are close to my heart. You know, it's a special journey you go with them.
Mm.
She was referred to me for her first after 2, 3 miscarriages. I can't remember the clear details now. And got pregnant, had a baby. I continued to work with the family for cradle cap and dad's eczema and mum's whatever, you know. So
Yeah,
stayed in touch. And then had an email, oh, I'm pregnant again. And that was, you know, we didn't work on pregnancy. I didn't even work with her full time, you know, regular. But
mm.
and then was it last year at some point? I got another email. Oh, we just had a third baby, and she always sends me pictures, and that's a beauty for me with homeopathy because once we bring that imbalance back into balance,
Yeah,
you know, the other babies would follow. It doesn't just work while you're working with me. The
yeah.
benefits go on. Another one that, and I had a few like these, but lady in her early 40s, you know, where doctors would go, you're too old. I don't believe in the too old. Okay, there is obviously in your menopause and stuff, but I don't shy away from age. But she was around 43, had various miscarriages, IVF, failed IVF,
Mm.
and we worked together. It took 9 months, you know. But she had her baby around the age of 43, 44. She had a little girl. Um, and I've got a few of these stories, you know, where people are already, because sometimes it can sound like IVF is an easy solution, and it's not. It takes a lot, but also the outcome is not always that brilliant.
Mm.
And it can also leave your body battered after all the hormones and things that went into it.
Yeah,
Um, and sometimes you would think, oh, I had so many failed IVFs, you know, and it's traumatic. There's nothing else to try anymore.
mm.
And then to have then a totally natural baby at an older age, you know,
Yeah,
it's a bit like, yes.
that's fantastic. Yeah, just
Yeah,
amazing.
and there's just nothing that can take away that feeling of hearing one of your clients is pregnant.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's just wonderful.
that's two that really pop into my head. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it can take longer, as I
Hmm.
said in this case, but it was a complex case. You know, it took longer, but yeah, it's always beautiful to have. And I'm building my wall of baby pictures on my
Oh, lovely.
wall that I wouldn't share publicly.
No, no, I
Yeah,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, and actually, the family that I said got 3 now, I actually got an email from her probably about 2 months ago. She was like, just saying we haven't forgotten you. We're just doing really, really well.
Yeah. Oh, it's so lovely. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, just completely beautiful. So if anyone listening to this podcast or watching this podcast um, is now where you once were, Magda, yeah, where they can't get pregnant, where they may be having miscarriages or other problems, and just feeling, because it can leave you feeling quite broken, obviously,
Oh
because that
yeah.
is such a traumatic thing to go through, and to feel that actually there's no hope. I think that's the main thing, isn't it? There comes a point where you're told by a doctor or whoever it is, there's nothing else we can do for you. And that really takes away the hope of them being able to conceive a baby. What would you say to somebody now who's in that situation, who may be watching this podcast?
You are not broken, and it's not your fault.
Mm.
I don't know whether it's a woman's thing. We can sometimes go so inward, and start to blame ourselves for, have we done this wrong? Do we leave it too late? This whole message of, if you're in your mid-30s, you're almost beyond childbearing age. That is absolutely not true. I see that over and over and over in my practice. If you're in your late 30s or in your 30s or even early 40s and somebody say you are in early menopause, is of menopause, that is your hormones are not balanced, because that's not normal. Sometimes we think, oh, it can't change, it can't, and there's a lot of jargon sometimes thrown at us. Your AMH, your this, your that. But yeah, my main message would be, you haven't done anything wrong. This is not your fault. And there's always hope,
Yeah,
in some shape or form. Your family might come in a different way than what you expected, but there's always a way, and yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love that. I love that there is always a way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and that is part of the mind, but of the fertile mind, you know, um, to get to a place where you're okay despite of the outcome.
Yeah.
Because trying to conceive can become, it can take over your whole life.
Mm.
What you eat, what you drink, who you meet. Because if you're of childbearing age, your friends are too. So you're riddled with pregnancy announcements, baby showers, christenings. That can be really, 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 really hard. It's almost like you're sitting in a restaurant and the waiter drop your plate of delicious food just as they approach the table. And now everybody else is eating and you're waiting for a fresh dish to be cooked.
Yeah.
And that's how it can feel, that feeling of,
Mm.
I'm watching everybody else enjoy their food,
Yeah.
but I don't know how long mine's going to take. Or
Yeah.
with a baby, you may feel it's never going to come.
Mm.
Um, but for me, and this is why I would really recommend anybody going through fertility to have some mindset work, some coaching, because we can almost plan, because of the fear and the fight or flight, we approach baby making sometimes like a project. I need
Mm.
to take the antenatal, I need to have intercourse at the right time, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that. And it takes all the fun out of life. It takes
Yeah.
all the joy out of life. I had clients that said baby making becomes the exchange of fluids rather than intimacy.
Mm. Mm.
And this is where resilience, as I said to you, one of my pillars is resilience. It's to have that ability to still find joy, to still be okay,
Yeah.
despite of the eye of the storm you are in.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not fake happiness. It's not like, oh, you can't feel sad, but it's to be just resilient in that state.
Yeah.
That you don't lose connection with your partner, that you don't lose connection with family and friends, but
Yeah.
that you do it in a way that honors your boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, because that is also really important, isn't it? To have that connection and to have support from your family, your partners, your friends. That's a really important thing as well.
Something that stayed with me, and this is now 17, 18 years ago, there was a charity foresight, and they don't exist anymore because the owner passed away. I think there may be a shadow of it or something still going on in the background. I don't even know. But I trained with foresight while I was half in the midst of my fertility stuff, and in this, the founder of the charity that taught us, it was all about natural, how to get your body optimized and things. But she quoted a stat that how many couples are not together after fertility issues. But
Mm.
also the more shocking one was how many couples that conceive finally or through IVF end up with an abortion.
Mm.
Because the journey to get to that point took so much out of them.
Yeah,
And that's really something. And I mentioned it to a business coach about 5 years ago. She went, "Oh, no, that's nonsense." And she jumped onto Google and she actually found supportive evidence of that. I've never
mm.
done that, but it's just something that really stayed with me. We can become so focused on the end goal
Yeah,
that by the time we get the prize, we don't really want the prize because we don't have the energy
for that.
for
Yeah.
that anymore.
Mm.
And yeah, that's just on a personal note, but that is part of why I do what I do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's just so much there, isn't there? So much going on, and you just a lot of the time, I think so much of it we just don't understand, I think, really what it's like to go through that and to go through all of that trauma and to the stress and the strain that it puts on relationships as well. We don't really necessarily connect with that.
Yeah, and it's something people don't really talk about. Or you
Mm.
get people that's very publicly, they may have an Instagram where they go through their fertility. But then for most women, it's something quite personal, something because they feel broken.
Mm-hmm.
And even though women's rights and fairness in the workplace and stuff, but there's still a bit of a stigma on, you know, taking time off, and I know when I went through mine, okay, well, that was donkeys years ago, it didn't come easily. And you did get judged for
No.
taking 2 weeks off because you had another miscarriage,
Yeah, which is
doctor's appointments or whatever. So it can be a very lonely, very private. And
yeah,
then when you do share it with someone, it can be minimized to this nothing, of, oh,
mm,
just get drunk and go away for a weekend, or, just relax and it would happen, or just, my friend Mary struggled to have a baby and she
yeah,
did whatever. Um, yeah, there's a lot of advice,
yeah,
and it comes from not a bad place. But if you in the midst of that storm, it can be quite a
yeah, very hard,
that
actually.
alone can be quite a traumatic experience. Dealing with people around you.
Exactly. Let alone dealing with what's actually going on with you
Yeah,
right now. Yeah, having to deal with everyone else as well. And
but also for a partner, it's not easy to see your female partner go through this.
mm,
Go through the ups and the downs and things. So
yeah,
they can become quite disempowered and
mm,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, definitely, because it does have a really deep effect, doesn't it? Understandably, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's just yeah, absolutely amazing. And I just wish there were a lot more people like you out there, Magda, that could reach out and help so many women right now, yeah, in various parts of the world, all over the place, really. There's such a need for women
Yeah,
that you do.
there's a big need.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's about 1 in 6 couples, but it's on the increase, and I think probably going closer to 1 in 4 couples
mm,
have some
yeah,
issue conceiving.
yeah. Yeah, because 1 in 6 is quite high, isn't it? It's quite
It
high
is quite high.
rate.
And that doesn't always include, sometimes it's almost half expected if you have a miscarriage before you have children. Oh, it was just like a trial run type of thing, and it's only when you speak to people that you realize how common
Yeah,
that is. And it doesn't need to be like that,
yeah,
it doesn't.
that's right. Yeah,
But also, there's not a lot of support around for women going through because it's of, oh, we can't change it. It is what it is. Maybe for the better, there was something wrong with the baby. Or in
yeah,
my case, okay, but because I had a daughter, everybody told me I can't have a son. My body isn't designed to carry boys. And what
mm.
popped out? A boy.
Right. Yes, yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, there's a lot of advice and a lot of old boys tales and a lot of, and it all comes from a good place. But when you're on the receiving end of that, it doesn't always
It doesn't feel good. No.
feel that great.
No.
No.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It would be so helpful, wouldn't it? People could be a bit more mindful about what
Yeah.
they're saying. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So your boy is now all grown up.
My boy will be 17 this year.
Yeah, yeah. Which is fantastic. Yeah, yeah, lovely. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it just goes to show, doesn't it? It's being told by helpful people that you can't carry boys, it's impossible, more or less, and then completely
No.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
fantastic.
look at him because he's so tall.
Yeah,
Um, my dad's 6'6", and my
yeah,
husband's 6'3", and Gordon is going surpass my husband now. So yeah,
right.
then I think you were my little rainbow baby, and you're not little anymore.
No, that is very tall, actually. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, here to make an impact as well, and to be seen by the sound of it, to be that tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Okay, all right. Now, have I got anything else that I want to ask? I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing I want to ask you is how do people get hold of you, Magda? How do they find you?
Uh, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook a bit, not always as much, but I'm Fertile Mind Body on Instagram. My website is magdawright.com or
Mhm.
even .co.uk, but I work internationally, so I've got babies dotted all around the world, which is quite nice.
Yeah, lovely.
Um, yeah, that's the easiest ways of getting
Yeah, okay, all
in
right.
my world. Yeah, Instagram is the main one.
Okay, yeah. All right, no, that's great. That's lovely. Thank you. And when we do finish, once I upload the podcast, if you can drop all of your links into the post, that would be great as well, because I'm sure having
Thank
listened
you.
to you today, there's going to be a lot of women that are going to be very, very keen on making contact with you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute honor, a real joy to have you on here as well, Magda. And thank you so much. I'm just amazed really by everything that you've told me to do. I've learned so much from you as well. I really have, which has just been absolutely delightful. Um, but yeah, it's been an absolute delight to be with you. I love the work that you do. So yeah, just keep shining that light out there, keep shining that passion which comes through you in just tremendously beautiful light and energy. It really does. It's fabulous. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jayne. It was lovely catching up with
Yeah,
you.
it's been an absolute joy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing work you do too. And yeah, thank you for having me. It's
Yeah.
a real honor.
Total pleasure, Magda. Okay, all right. So for everyone who's going to be watching the podcast, so we're finishing now. Yes, and I know that you will completely love Magda's story, and do get in touch with her once we finish here. So for now, just sending you all lots of love, and thank you so much for joining us here today. And if you have a soul story of your own that you would love to share, do drop me a line, get in touch with me, and we can see what we can work out on that score as well. That would just be great. Okay, thank you so much then. Lots of love to you all. Bye.
Bye.
Just a second.